The Vestals were among the most enigmatic and powerful figures of Roman religion, suspended in a unique condition that made them at once privileged and deeply controlled by the state. Their cult was dedicated to Vesta, goddess of the domestic hearth and the sacred fire, a symbol of the continuity of the city of Rome. In the Roman mindset, fire was not merely a physical element, but the very heart of the community. Just as the household hearth held the family together, so the fire of Vesta guaranteed the survival of the state. The Vestals were the guardians of that eternal flame, kept burning in the circular temple in the Roman Forum, and their role was considered essential for the safety and prosperity of the city. According to tradition reported by authors such as Livy and Plutarch, the institution of the Vestals dated back to the time of Romulus, or, more likely, to the reign of Numa Pompilius, the Sabine king credited with organizing Rome's religious system. Originally, their number may have been 2 or 4, but in historical times they were 6. They were chosen from patrician girls between 6 and 10 years old, physically intact and with both parents alive, selected by the Pontifex Maximus, the highest religious authority in Rome. With their selection, the girl left her father's patria potestas and came under the authority of the state, an extraordinary fact in a society where women were normally subordinate to male family power. The service lasted 30 years, symbolically divided into 3 phases of 10 years each: learning, performing duties, and teaching new recruits. During this period, the Vestals were required to maintain absolute chastity. Their virginity was not merely a moral virtue, but a sacred condition, perceived as linked to the integrity of the state itself. The violation of the vow was considered an extremely grave sacrilegium. Sources, including Dionysius of Halicarnassus and Plutarch, describe the terrible punishment. The guilty Vestal was buried alive in an underground chamber outside the Porta Collina, with minimal provisions, so that formally it was not the state killing her, but the goddess judging her. The man involved was instead scourged to death. This ritual shows how the purity of the Vestals was seen as a pillar of cosmic and political order. Despite the rigidity of their vows, the Vestals enjoyed exceptional privileges. They were among the few Roman women legally emancipated. They could own property, make a will, and manage assets without a male guardian. They held places of honor at public games and could move through the city in a covered carriage, preceded by lictors, symbols of authority. If they encountered a condemned man on the way to execution, they could grant him pardon. Their person was sacrosanct. Offending a Vestal was a most serious crime. They lived in the Atrium Vestae, a prestigious residential complex next to the temple, whose archaeological remains are still visible in the Roman Forum and testify to a refined environment decorated with statues of the priestesses themselves. Beyond guarding the sacred fire, the Vestals performed numerous ritual duties. They prepared the mola salsa, a salted flour used in public sacrifices, safeguarded sacred objects such as the Palladium, the legendary statue of Athena, said to have been brought from Troy by Aeneas, and participated in key ceremonies of the Roman religious calendar, such as the Vestalia in June. On those occasions, the Temple of Vesta was open to Roman matrons, who entered barefoot to offer sacrifices. Ancient sources oscillate between admiration and suspicion regarding the Vestals. Cicero presents them as symbols of purity and moral stability, while Tacitus recounts trials and scandals that reveal how politically delicate their role could be. Some cases of condemnation appear linked to moments of military or political crisis, suggesting that the Vestals could become scapegoats in difficult times. Their integrity was seen as a reflection of the state's health. If something went wrong, it could be suspected that the pact with the gods had been violated. From a symbolic perspective, the Vestals embodied a paradoxical form of female power within a patriarchal society. They were women removed from marriage and motherhood, two fundamental roles in Roman life, but precisely for that reason, they became symbolic mothers of the city. Their bodies belonged to Rome, not to a man. Some modern scholars have interpreted their condition as a form of extreme control over female sexuality, others as a space of exceptional autonomy compared to the norm. Indeed, the Vestals represented a radical exception within the Roman social system, neither wives nor daughters, but sacred figures suspended between the human and the divine. Archaeologically, beyond the temple and the House of the Vestals in the Forum, numerous inscriptions and honorary statues testify to the individual importance of certain priestesses, especially in the imperial age. The statues depict veiled women with solemn expressions and ritual garments, and their bases bear inscriptions celebrating their pietas and service. These findings confirm that the Vestals were not marginal figures, but central to the public representation of religious power. With the rise of Christianity and the gradual religious transformation of the empire, the College of the Vestals survived until the end of the 4th century AD. Emperor Theodosius, through his laws against pagan cults, officially put an end to traditional practices, and the fire of Vesta was extinguished. This event carried strong symbolic value. The end of the cult of Vesta marked the close of an era and the dissolution of one of the oldest pillars of Roman identity. The Vestals remain even today an ambivalent figure. They were privileged yet supervised, honored yet vulnerable, autonomous yet bound to a rigid discipline. Their role shows how, in Rome, religion and politics were inseparable, and how control of the sacred was a tool for legitimizing power. Between the eternal flame and the threat of live burial, the Vestals embodied the constant tension between freedom and sacrifice that lay at the very heart of Roman civilization.